Reinforcement learning is a sequential decision task, some setting where you have to take actions over time, and those actions affect the state you're in. Based on your state, you make decisions about what actions to take, and then over time, you try to maximize some cumulative reward. For instance, here's this example from the early 2000s where they have these robot dogs that play soccer. This is an international competition, and they've spent a number of months doing grad student descent. The grad student sits there and tries to tweak the parameters to try to make the robot walk as quickly as possible. And instead of that, then they said, let's make this a reinforcement learning problem. So we'll have these robot dogs time themselves walking back and forth across the field. They take actions which change how they walk, and then the reward is the inverse of the time it takes for them to move. And then they ended up learning a way to walk that was faster than anything that they had hand-coded and actually had the fastest walk in the world. Another example of an RL project is when I was at Borealis. I helped a little bit with the Aiden project. This was a stock trading agent. It used reinforcement learning in a particular setting. And here's a case where we had really smart quants that had coded up a bunch of algorithms, and reinforcement learning was able to learn how to take decisions over time. So it was able to outperform those algorithms that people spent years fine-tuning. Some of the strengths of reinforcement learning: it makes a lot of sense for reinforcement learning to be used if you don't know how to solve a problem. So if you already know the solution, you should just code it up. But if you don't know the solution or you want it to get the maximal performance, then RL could be worth it. It's also useful in cases where there's non-stationarity. If things are changing over time. For instance, in the stock market, things are always changing and you need to adapt to that on the fly. Reinforcement learning is also really good at trading off exploration with exploitation. So you have to go and try different things, and there's some cost to that. So if you're trading stocks in the real world, you're possibly losing money. If you're learning on a robot, you're using up battery and you're wearing down the robot, so you have to replace it. Then after learning, you've got something that's going to be near optimal, that you can continue to improve over time. And if the problem changes substantially, you can likely transfer that knowledge so that you can do zero-shot performance or learn very quickly. In cases like this, reinforcement learning is often the right tool to use. Now, some of the weaknesses, though, is you need things like a simulator. The second point, we need to formulate the problem. It turns out someone doesn't hand you an RL problem. You have to just define it. I like the quote of weeks of coding can save you hours of planning. It does make sense to think ahead and carefully define the problem. In the Aiden case, in the stock trading agent, the state was represented by hundreds of carefully picked features from these quants. And this was trade secret. I didn't even know what these features were, how they describe states. And like the action space, we weren't saying you can buy or sell any stock. Instead, we defined the problem so that we had to sell or buy a certain amount of stock by the end of the day. And we could only go in one direction. So it was just figuring out how quickly to buy or sell. We constrained the problem to make it simpler. And that kind of formulation often takes a lot of human knowledge. Another thing, reinforcement learning can be slow to learn. So at the beginning, the agent just acts randomly, real stupid, and it can take hours or days or years to learn. That's another place where LLMs could provide some initial knowledge, some initial bias, some help. Last thing I'll mention is standard reinforcement learning algorithms don't really have planning. They don't really look ahead. That's another way that LLMs could help.